Hello and welcome to this presentation. We'll be looking at the menu options on the interface itself. Let's go ahead and disconnect here, distracting us. Okay, let's look at the file menu. File. Okay, first up is new interface. If we want a totally blank interface and start from scratch, building an interface, we can create a new interface from it. Open selection interface brings us back to our selection interface, where we can select what plot we want to run, what interface we want to run. Okay, and we can connect here and just view, again, analog and digital data coming in this case. Okay, digital data is in the form of %, 10101, ending with a carriage return or a line feed. And we can open up F4, bring up the debug window and type that in and test things out, or have our controller center, of course. And this one would just have a couple gauges, LED bar graphs showing what's going on with channel 0 and channel 1 of the plot. So let's talk about the menus again. Interface to load on start. Okay, which interface, when you start up the software, do you want to load up? Right now, interface is the index, MPJI, MakerPlot-J Interface file is selected. Or we can select a different interface to run. We can use the current interface and just hope to use the one we currently see. So next time we start it up, we'll have that interface going. Or I can use the selection interface, and by default, the selection interface is the one that starts up. Okay, whether we even want an interface to load on start, okay, or otherwise we'll just get blank interface if we just tell it not to load anything. We have recent plots that have been run, interfaces have been opened. We can open an interface from files. We can save the current interface. Now, the saves are not applicable to those with non-developer license. You can build as much as you want, but you can't save it. Also, if you're running a non-registered version, it will only save the first 5 controls placed on the interface. And once you're registered, you can save everything. Load interface settings. I can take and I can save and load interface settings. For example, if I change the bars min maxes here to 200 and 500, okay, for a range of values on those, oops, that negative 500. Okay, so I'll set the range those bar graphs show in. And if I go over and save this interface, save interface, and it's saving again to the interface's root directory. Let's call it test. Okay, and we'll go back once and reopen the selection interface. Back into that one. And if we load settings, then load interface settings, go up and select test, we get our values back. So it pretty much saves all the properties, all the configurations of all the different controls. So you can reload those fairly quickly once you've made some modifications to values and such. Mark button down here, we can mark a point on the plot, type in some text here. Always hit enter so it locks it in, and test. Just while I was there. Run macros. Macros are text files full of instructions that will perform some task. We can select one, or we can run from the installed ones, such as 4-channel lines. Okay, there's some parameters we have to enter. Typically, the default. Happy with it. And it brings up a new interface for us. I'm going to set this one to keep on top, and we'll reconnect. And it's taking that data based upon the data. It's drawing lines to X and Y positions and color based upon the incoming data. So it's a nice visualization there. of our data. And with those child interfaces, it was called a child interface. It wasn't the main interface, a child interface. I could do Control 1 to reopen that child back up, or find it in the interfaces directory. Edit, we can go into edit mode, so we can start editing this interface and be able to do various things like moving controls around or resizing them. I'll do another presentation just on editing interfaces, or hit F9 to get out of it, F9 to go in, or F9 to come out. It also tells you how to copy and paste when you're in edit mode. Basically, just go over it, press Control C and Control V to copy and paste, one control at a time. This edit about, if you build your own interface, you can edit the about that'll show for it. So when we go over to help and about, interface about, it'll show the about for it. Or we can edit header comments, the comments for the interface file. So again, if you're running someone's interface and you want to read about it, you can go interfaces, interface comments, and read the comments for it. Window, these are the various windows. We've got the control palette where we can take these and place them on the interface to do various things. Again, different presentation. The interface editor, this is where we can go and edit these various controls. I can also do by placing my mouse over something, such as this box here. Make sure it's got focus, hit F3, and it'll open it up. And these are all the settings and properties for that. If I want to change the background color or various things about this, I can go here and edit the back color for this, editing background, or the back color, make it green instead. Okay, so this is, and there's help here as well for these. So if I right click on these, it'll bring up a little help box talking about these various controls and such. Make sure it's selected first before you right click it. So select and right click. And again, when we save settings, it'll save all those changes. Debug CLI we talked about. It's a great place to test and monitor things. Has some contextual help to it. So if I want to perform it, if I want to view like a value, a question mark, print the debug screen. Also shows a bunch of errors that came in when I was trying to process my interface. Most of them are usually not important as long as everything works the way it's supposed to. But open up bracket up to show values. And here it's got a list of all the various, all the variables in use in this interface, the controls on this interface. So that's all the different controls. And then some general values we can bring up, such as we can look at that, let's see, analog string, and just show me what that last analog string is. And that's the last analog string it brought in. Or for various controls, we can have it print and look at a control such as bar plot 0, hit dot again, a dot for it. I can look at the various properties for that and bring that up, such as back color. There's also a completion here. If I got part of a word there, it shows up in the listing. I can hit Control space and auto-complete that. So through the window, we can do a lot of things, or we can send instructions such as plot, reset. Again, for the instructions, starts with an exclamation point, the plot. Okay, again, as I type that, I could see my choices being limited down to plot or dplot, and then plot. Control Shift to complete, dot, and all the instructions it can perform, such as reset. autocomplete that, and reset the analog plot. So command line interface, we can pretty much manipulate any aspect of MakerPlot that we desire through instructions. And again, another video will get deeper into that. Just refresh if you need to refresh the screen. Controls viewer, it shows all the controls on the plot, on the interface, what instructions they have, what properties they have. You can actually change properties through here as well. Properties, we can actually plot on. Okay, let's make that 0 instead. Okay, and turn plotting off. So properties, a lot of properties for it, and values. Values we can pull out of it, such as channel values and such. And also event triggers. Event triggers are for code. When an event happens, what event trigger is used to respond to what happened to that plot, such as if I press and release the mouse, okay, I can have a trigger for press and release. Or if analog data arrives, what to do. And again, I'll get deeper into that on developing interfaces and working with events and such. Okay. Message window, that's the message window that pops up. Interfaces, we can select this interface to always be on top, take a snapshot of it, take a snapshot of the screen or interface. These are about the same thing, they're only processed a little bit differently, because one way can kind of cause a error sometimes and lock up, so the other way is available as well. I can't remember which is which, sorry. Interface about we looked at, interface comments. Child windows are available, such as our lines one there. So I'll list all the child interfaces up here. Folders, we can look at the logs folder where we're storing log data at. Okay, here's a bunch of logs that have been stored in there. Snapshots folder, we looked at the microcode folder, again, to get to any installed microcontroller code that's been distributed with it. Right now, there's just the one Arduino set of code in there. Open the folder of current interface, so we can go to the current interface. We're in analog digital, okay, and be able to look at the various interfaces through here. And through help, then, we can go to our references, which is a great place to go to read about what's going on with it. This is the most recent version of the help. It's fairly new. We've added to it a quick start that talks down through interface selection, serial data, analog plotting. Okay. A lot of things about the analog plot I just covered, digital plotting, message data, sending instructions. So that's a really quick overview. Then we get deeper in with the other references. Check online, go to online resources such as MakerPlot-J homepage, our forum. Go to our videos on YouTube, or view revision notes online. Check for updates, so we can tell it to run through and check for updates. And then just about MakerPlot-J, okay, and how it's registered as an individual license. Okay, so that's the major menu features and some of what they're all about in MakerPlot-J. So I hope this has been a benefit to you, and thank you very much for our next presentation. And happy plotting.